Hi, I'm John Shear, and I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin.
And I'm Bridget Sullivan Ramel. I run a fee-only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois. Before we talk about more meaningful Thanksgiving conversations, why don't you subscribe? It helps other people find us on this station. All right, John. So I wanted to talk about talking about values on at the dinner table, and especially Thanksgiving dinner table. Because first of all, talking about values gets people a little into a little deeper conversation, but people generally enjoy the conversation. So if once you get into it, it is something that makes people feel good just to talk about their values, just to be reminded of them.
Yeah, no, I think that's such a great thing as we think about, gathering for a holiday meal, especially a Thanksgiving, right? It's in the word, right? A lot of times, what are we thankful for? I mean, I think a lot of us probably have these conversations or maybe do some kind of sharing around the table. And it's just really interesting. And I love how you make this such a part of your professional work, Bridget. It's that is think about what are you thankful for? Well, in some fashion, that relates to what you value and maybe how you grew up, maybe how your family values, and right, and how did it affect you? And to really take a step maybe deeper, I think it's a great idea for viewers to maybe take this to their Thanksgiving dinner table and dig into a little bit more about not just what you're thankful for, but what are those values and really explore that because it's one of those things, unless you think about it, for me anyway. It's just not a natural thing, and it's not top of mind. But you start to get into it; it's kind of fun to talk about, kind of interesting, and also from a family standpoint, I'll just say, and friends as well, of course. But you really make deeper connections when you have these sort of conversations. So I'm excited. I know you've got some tools that you use, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah. And so, what are we looking for when we talk about values? First of all, we're talking about motivating ideals. That's how it's defined. But to me, I think of it as more me. Like, so what is really me? And what can I not get rid of, even if I tried? That's kind of my values. Like, so
Yeah.
we've got a list. Okay, so the researcher that is renowned for doing values work, his name's Shalom Schwartz. He spent decades testing people in different cultures to help define which values are really seen in all different universal cultures. And he tested this in over, last time I checked, 165 different cultures to see, okay, are these consistent? And he came out with this graph, and there's 10 basic categories. And then there's another test that gives you 57 kind of nuances of the different categories. So when we're looking at this, what we want to do is say, what jumps out to me? And when you look at the 57, it's maybe a little easier. But even when you look at that 10, it's pretty easy to say, all right, what do I do? Although there's a couple that are, let me just talk about them just briefly.
Yeah.
Self-direction, that's like creativity and wanting to be on my own. Universalism, that's more about the environment, appreciating beauty and art. Benevolence, that's kind, giving, valuing honesty. Conformity, that means respecting your elders. Tradition, I think people understand what tradition is. Security, that can be personal security, that can be cleanliness, that can be financial security, that can be family security. Power, people kind of universally, this is the lowest rated, least respected value, but we need it for our society. So let's be, so it might be hard for somebody to cop to it. You might have to tell somebody they like power rather than having them cop to
Yeah.
it because it doesn't seem that polite. Achievement, I think people that we're a very achievement oriented society. So I think people understand that. Hedonism, again, this is like a no-no in our society. But one of my clients taught me, oh, that's enjoying life. And this client was like, I'm supposed to enjoy life. That's what life is for, enjoying. And so that's the way I look at hedonism. Stimulation, that's people that jump out of planes and stuff, and they just like a lot of stimulation. All right, so that's our circle. So, just thinking about those broad categories and where you fit in and what's me. Like one time I talked to somebody and I told her how much I admired how benevolent she was. And she said, that's just me. I don't try. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. And for me, I would say that category for me is creative and the self direction. That's just me. I don't try. I have to try to not be that way. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I appreciate the sort of brief background on, some of these words can mean different things, right? And so to say, hey, what are we talking about here? And what struck me as you were describing those, Bridget, is that words can have very powerful implications that might have nothing to do with what the actual word is meaning or describing. And when you said power, you're like, oh, that's not well regarded. Like that seems like the not necessarily the bad guy, right? But those are sort of things that you're like, oh, that's not a great value, right? It's sort of the feeling.
Right.
Wait a minute. We better have people that want to be in have power and be in charge of things and lead society, right? Like, oh, wait a minute. Let's not attach any or try to detach anyway the feelings that go with these things and hedonism, right? That's an interesting word about, I like that enjoying life. Okay, good. That feels a little bit better, but it's not like it's right or wrong with things. It reminds me of when we work with clients and they're money aggressive, and we, maybe greedy is a word for that, right? And it's not like it's a bad thing that, it's good to have money, right? Better than the alternative. And also money fearful, or, like, wait a minute, that's not a good or a bad thing. It's just, oh, this is how I filter the world. And that's what I heard in this is not like, and I definitely had some different emotions about the words that you said. I go, wait a minute, no, that's just, and I think you described, this is who I am. Right? Oh, no, this is how I look at the world. Doesn't mean that I should have more benevolence or more power or anything, but it's like, this is my filter, right? Those are those values, which is why I think this is such an interesting discussion.
Yeah, well, and I think that there's plenty of values that I think most people go through their life medium on. And the other thing is that all values sound good, especially when we explain things like power and hedonism. So there's no, like, so it can be hard to sort out because I'll say, like, oh, I want achievement. And actually, I've been going through an achievement period of my life, but that's not when it's kind of situational. If I'm in the situation, then I like achievement. But I don't try to achieve things when I'm on vacation, for instance.
Yeah,
I will try to be creative when I'm on vacation. So that's another thing to think about is like, what do you do when you're for fun? You know,
yeah,
what do you do for fun? Do you do something creative? Do something scientific? How do you approach the world? I think another interesting topic might be what do you do? How have you done lately? How do you work this into your life? Like, so how do you work? Yeah. How does this play out in your life? Because if you actually have a goal plus a value, that brings you meaning. And so you might say, well, I like to give to people. And so I had a family and now I give to them. And that's very meaningful to me.
one of the things I was just thinking again, looking at this graph that says, there are some things that are, I was going to say opposite, but at least in tension with each other, right? Not exactly perhaps opposite, hedonism, enjoying life versus being benevolent to other people. Maybe there's some tension there, and it just strikes me that probably there are some folks that are all in kind of one area of the circle, and I wouldn't be surprised. I probably fit into the group where there are some things that are on opposite ends of the spectrum and yet are, similarly important for a person. And maybe just to check with you, hey, that's okay, right? It's not like, well, what's wrong? Like, no, sometimes opposites, you can hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time or two feelings, right? And it's not like it's right or wrong. It's just, oh yeah, that's maybe where I have a sense of conflict in certain things is because of that sort of tension, right?
Well, and you can have tension with different people too. And that's one of the
Yeah.
major Schwartz findings is that on the opposite sides of the circle, there's some natural tension there. And so you brought up hedonism, and on the opposite side of that is tradition. And if you think of world religions, most of them are trying to rein in hedonism. So there's just natural tension there. Not to say that nobody in the religion can enjoy their life, because why would, people would probably quickly leave the religion if they weren't enjoying their life. So and another one that comes up in finances a lot is there's a security, there's a people who value security plus, let's say, self-direction. So they're creative people who also value security or even benevolence and also value security. So that's hard because I want to give all my money away, or I want to be creative and not structured, but I still want to not, but I don't want to be broke, like, so that creates, like, I don't want to be a starving artist. The starving artist is a good example of a archetype of somebody that's just in that creative part and doesn't have any of the security part. But most people I've met are not like that, or they don't aspire to be anyway.
One of the things before we jumped on here and hit record was you describing you take these categories, and I'm thinking about, all right, around the dinner table, what do you do with this? It's an interesting discussion, but then basically what you do is you grade how important each of these things are to you, right? Zero is like, oh, it's the opposite of what I believe in or, a value. And then a 10 is like, or a set, what is it, 0 to 7 or 0 to 10? Hey, on the other end of the scale, it's like, no, this is core to who I am.
Right.
And maybe that's something as far as like what do you do with this is a 1 or 2 page thing that you could have, or a note card sort of thing, and go, all right, have people think for a few minutes about where they fit in there, and it could spur some interesting discussions around the Thanksgiving table, right?
Yeah, right. And what you want to do. Like you can talk about the future too, because again,
Yeah.
value plus a goal equals meaning. So this is that feels that resonant meaning, and it's a great time to do it at Thanksgiving when you're trying to reflect. It's like a great time to wrap it up. I also wanted to offer, if people are interested in this handout, contact me. We'll put my contact information, email me, and we'll send it out to you. Happy to. And with that, I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermount. I've got a fee only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. Bridget and I are both taking on clients. We'd love to hear from you, but we're also both members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. So if you like what you hear on our show and would like to find a planner who thinks similarly to us but is in your area, please check out acplanners.org.
Don't forget to subscribe.